Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Today we have an interesting little hot rodding of a reel, if you will, on a restoration. We have a Penn 710Z. It seems to be in beautiful condition. It was sent in by Josu, and he's asked me to do two things. One was to install the manual pickup, or POOM, pickup manually, lever here in exchanging off the traditional flip bail. The POOM is there. He's also asked me to install new gears, a new bearing, and new washers. So essentially, by the time that this service is completed, the reel will, well, mechanically pretty much be new. So let's get started. Let's show you how to take this reel apart, how to service it if you have one of these, how to do the upgrades if that's something that you're trying to do, and get it back to him to go take it fishing. Again, I mentioned it's always nice to have a reel that's in nice condition cosmetically if you're going to do upgrades like that, because they're not inexpensive. But regardless of the cosmetic condition, if you have the reel working well mechanically, it will fish on and on and on. This reel was introduced in the 1970s, and it still continues to be one of the best reels ever made today. We're going to show you how to take that apart, and we'll start by removing the exterior pieces. While I do that, I want to encourage you to subscribe to my channel if you do like fishing reel service and repair type videos. And I cover all kinds of fishing reels, and you'll learn how to do them regardless of what the type of reel it is that you own, whether it's a bait caster or a spinning reel or a large saltwater trolling reel. I work on them all, and over time, well, I get to do the videos to service them all. You can see, even though cosmetically it's nice, well, internally it hasn't been serviced in a while. We have coagulated grease here. You can see I can scrape that off the axle shaft. You have some old globs of grease over here and the like, and well, we'll take care of all of that. Let's show you how this reel works before we start taking any more pieces and parts off. There's only a single screw here that's holding the side plate on. And when I remove the pieces and parts, I like to put them into a parts tray. That helps me keep track of where the pieces and parts are. I also like to take pictures because, well, you're never quite sure when you're going to walk away from a project and forget where you were and what the orientation of the piece or part was, and then, well, then you kind of have to scramble. That parts goes in there. Here's how it works. We have a spiral drive gear, a main gear, a cross-wind arm held on by a screw on both sides. One attaches it to the main gear, the other screw attaches it to the axle shaft. And well, all those parts are going to come out because he wants to do those upgrades on the gears. Here's how it works. The screw is offset. Because it is offset, the arm will move up and down, and that'll cause your axle shaft to go up and down. Now you're hearing a clicking there. That's because he's removed the bail, and that trip lever is trying to trip every time it hits that high spot, or the trip inside, the internal trip. That's okay. The manual pickup has a slot for that to hold it open so that that doesn't happen. All right, so let's continue then taking these off. One of the things that I recommend that you do when you take a reel off is always match the width of your screw. I want to take the handle off first. Match the width of the screw slot to the appropriate screwdriver. That screwdriver will, well, it's designed to fit that way. And if you use an undersized screwdriver, you risk damaging that slot, and sometimes it's damaged to the point where it can't be gripped any longer. When we're taking care of that noisy little handle, there's two pieces that you oil. You oil the seam there. There was a little bit of salt that was there, and then you use the oil port here. Put a drop of oil in that. Okay, there's a thick washer that goes in that handle cup. So note that. And then we can turn our attention to the other side, back where I was with that screwdriver. All right, we're going to remove that. There's a little collar on here too. This one has a little washer. Actually, that was installed upside down, but seen worse things, I guess. And take the screw out of the axle shaft now. That little washer belongs on the other side. Okay. Just like we did with the other pieces, I'm going to put those into my parts tray so that I don't lose them. Now I should be able to pull up and out on the axle shaft to remove that. And as we noted, we have some old greases and that here. So I'm just going to put a little bit of penetrating oil on that and let that do its work. Let it just kind of sit over on the side here and let it seep in, and we'll just come back and wipe that off. Your crosswind block comes out. It's got some dirt on it too. A lot of what you're doing in terms of servicing the reel is simply cleaning, inspecting, and of course replacing any worn parts that may be there. Now, Jasu has actually asked me to do a little bit more here. He wants all the parts replaced, essentially. This one, it's not going to get replaced. But yeah, that's okay too. When you go to pull your main gear out, put your anti-reverse dog in free spool so that it doesn't catch on the back end. And then we should be able to push this main gear out. This one's going to be replaced. I guess I don't need to clean that. Set that off to the side. There is a fair amount of grease on that anti-reverse dog. So I'm just going to find my small screwdriver that I use as a scraper. And I'll start by just taking a couple of the chunks of the grease out. And then we'll do the same thing we're doing with that axle shaft over there. We're going to just spray inside, let the penetrating oil dissolve that older grease. And then we'll clean that up as well. And there's a hunk of grease there. That's a cotton swab I'm using. And we'll give that a good spray here. All right, we'll just let that kind of work. Next up, we want to remove the rotor. I work with a paper towel on my bench. That paper towel helps me to keep control of the dirt and not spread it to other projects. Sometimes it gets a little bit too thick. When you go to remove your rotor, you want a deep socket because you can't reach this nut simply by trying to grab an open face wrench and put that in there. It can't clear the bowl. This should come off in a traditional counterclockwise turn. Maybe not. Nope. I guess that was over tightened, that's all. Traditionally, counterclockwise, pull that off. Then we can remove the rotor. And again, same thing we just did with the other one. We'll grab a cotton swab, we'll work some of this old grease off. This is going to be pretty much neutralized by that boom or manual pickup piece. I still want to make it clean inside. So let's do that. I'm going to set that off to the side, let that work its way. And now we'll come up and we'll remove the axle shaft, the pinion gear. So he's given me a pinion gear and a main gear to replace. I'm not sure if there was an issue with those gears. I really didn't test it real much because we had that trip lever kind of banging there, but that's okay. We'll solve that. If it isn't, he probably has a good market in the used part, maybe on eBay or that. The sellers are just hold them as kind of backup gears. When you do this, notice the little bump. This is the one that was hitting that trip lever, and it's pointing towards the back here. So it's on the gear side towards the back. Good place for a picture. But if you're working with a traditional bail, you need to make sure that that firing line is right there. If you move that around to the other side, the bail, like for example on this or here, that bail will trip at a different point in the rotation, and well, it's usually annoying. Okay. Next up then, we're going to just clean this shield. And then we should be able to remove the pinion gear and shaft. Again, don't need to really clean these. I'm just going to take a moment here and do that. I'm going to shut the camera off, then we'll come back and install the new pieces and parts. We'll do the rest of the cleanup on that body. Okay, the body, the rotor, the axle shaft have all been cleaned, and well, it's time to just put the new in, out with the old, in with the new. So I'm just going to keep track of the old pieces, get them back to their rightful owner. And well, there's several ways we can start. So let's do the inner body first. You have the two gears that are changed out. This is your main gear and your spiral drive. These appear to be new, right from mysticparts.com. They seem to be exact replacements. So we know we have the spiral gear, and we have the bearing from Boca Bearings. I'll show you that in a moment. This is Boca Bearing. They're a good replacement parts dealer. It says ceramic bearing specialist, but I don't believe that this is ceramic. I could be wrong. But this looks like your basic shielded bearing for the wheel. Looks like an exact replacement. Okay, normally I would tell you to check the teeth inside the gear. This one. And of course, if you needed to clean it out, you'd clean it out using a brush. And place the bearing on top of the post. Get your fishing grease out. I use Penn Precision reel grease. Not because this is a Penn reel, but well, it's a fishing reel grease. These should be stainless steel bearings, I'm assuming. I'm going to put some oil on those, and then we're going to install this back into the case. Actually, I'm going to wait till I put it into the case to do that. Make sure that your carrier is clean. Bring your axle shaft pinion gear through. Make sure this is flush to the top. This is where you can put your oil on the bearing. Let gravity do its work and let it seep through the shield. Speaking of shields, we now have the collar. Remember what we said, you're going to line the collar up so that your trip knob or stud is kind of opposite your handle there. And then we'll take our 3 screws and install the tie downs here. Sometimes these are easy to do, sometimes, well, not so easy, especially with me and small screws. We don't play well together. And I'm going to use a screw starter here because I can see I'm fumbling with it already. This little screw starter has a split ridge on it. Enables you to grab it. And there's 2 more of those. And I don't use it to tighten it all the way down, because sometimes when you do that, you start spreading the tip of the screwdriver under pressure. So what I do is I just use it to get it started, and once the threads hold, I'll go back to the traditional screwdriver. Well, patience is what you need in these situations, but generally that will prevail. There's no need for speed when you're doing a reel service. Take your time, enjoy the process, live the moment, and you won't make as many mistakes or feel that something was compromised because of it. Okay, we're just going to tighten those 3 carriers down, and we'll put that manual override on that before we put the rotor back on. Here's your main gear. It's all cleaned. A good amount of grease into the teeth. Now, you don't need to get the grease in every tooth. You have the grease on the pinion shaft, and that will suffice to mix it up, since they travel at different speeds in the ratio. Grease onto the axle shaft for that side plate bushing. Install that in. And what I like to do at this point is put the handle back on. And that's to hold that main gear in place. Sometimes if you don't do that, the main gear pops out, and then you lose your place or lose track or whatever. Okay. Next up then, we want to install the carrier and the axle shaft. I did mention that the offset of the little washer was installed improperly on the last one. That's okay. We got it now. You can actually see where the circle belongs on this one. A little bit of grease onto the face. Now our offset goes in like that. Then our crosswind block goes on. And this has got a shoulder on it, so you're going to do 2 things. You're going to start this screw, and then you're going to have to match the shoulder to that little washer that we have there. And sometimes you're just going to need to kind of play around with it. It's not always going to be a direct and immediate meshing. Just take your time. Okay, in this case, I believe we've got it. We'll tighten that all the way down. And that little washer can live happily where it belongs. All right, now it's time to switch our attention over to the manual pickup. The bail has been removed. We're going to leave all those pieces right there. This is I'm not quite sure what that says, but it's a manual pickup. We have 2 pieces to this. We have the pickup itself, and we have the screw for the other side. So this is your mounting screw on this side. Go ahead and put that in. That'll just cover that hole so that you don't have water intrusion. Of course, you're going to have where the hole was for the other one. All right, then we have our trip lever we were talking about before, making all that noise. And we have the side plate screw. You don't need to put the spring in here. The spring has been removed. What you need to note is you have that slot. That slot is going to go over the tag end of the trip lever to keep that out of play. And we can bring the rest of the assembly over and get your screw started. And once you've kind of got that shoulder cleared, I think we got it now, tighten it down, and that's the install. So this keeps the trip lever out of the way. It'll spin freely now, and this is where you use your manual pickup for your load. All right, let's put the rotor back on. Make sure that the tie-down collar is in place. there's a little well that sits in. Make sure that you have the exposure to be able to put that nut on. And you need to do all of this before you load your axle shaft. It's the only way it can go on. Switch the throw on your ratchet to tighten. And make sure you tighten it down all the way. Okay, we need to put our axle shaft in now. Now the axle shaft doesn't have the washer. Hopefully the washer's under here. Yep, it is. Okay. That's your washer that's used to accommodate spool height. That snaps on like that. I'm going to wipe off any old grease that may be on there and a light coating of grease onto the axle shaft. Don't put a lot on. When it goes through the pinion gear, it will scrape off if it's too much. Bring that down and align this as it comes through. Align the hole in the axle shaft, this hole, with the hole in the cross line. Once you see the hole, align the hole. I grab the teeth of that thing a little bit. There you go. And then get a tie down screw for this. Tighten that up. Once you finish tightening up that screw, well, we can give it a turn, see how we did. How nice and smooth operation that is, right? What's not to like about that? We have also reinstalled the crosswind arm correctly. All right, well, there's one more step to do here. Well, let's put that anti-reverse back on so we know that's working. And then the last step here, he gave me new drag washers for the reel as well. So we'll go ahead and install them. Now, he's got Carbon Tex, but quite honestly, they look like the same washers that are in the Penn washers. It says, this is what I always say, Carbon Tex washers may be used dry or lightly greased. So, your option. Most of the time on a top level reel like this one, I will put a little bit of grease on it. The whole idea of grease is to keep them from drying out, cracking, and breaking. Carbon Tex, well, it's not that kind of material. All right, you remove the C-clip ring that's holding the drag stack in. Take pictures. On your drag stack, you're going to notice one of the washers has these little beads. That's the top one. This one looks like it has Carbon Tex washers in it already. Again, the Penn washers. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that your cavity is clean of any dirt and debris. And use the paper towel, kind of wad it up to get through there and pull whatever may be out. And we'll take our scissors to open up the new washers. So these are a little bit different. These have the fine side and the rough side. The Penn ones have the two rough sides. And it says use some Cal's universal grease. I'll show you how to do that. Again, they can be dry or wet. I'll just make it so that you can see it. Little dab of the grease. I use my gloved hand as a tool. Just rub it in. You need to see the cross hatchings. If you have too much on, just wipe it off with a paper towel. All right, the sequence is first washer in. Then you want the keyed washer, the one with the rectangular center, but not the little stubs on it. That goes next. We'll repeat the process with the drag washer. And I get asked all the time, should I put the smooth side up or down? It doesn't matter. I put the smooth side down. Then you're going to have a hex nut, squared sides. That's the middle washer, sometimes called the eared washer, but this one doesn't have ears on it. One more time. Again, if you put too much on, just wipe it off with a paper towel. It's the last of the washers. Kind of pressing them in place. Now you want the one that has those little studs facing up. That goes in. Then our clip goes in. Now usually you can get this in with finger pressure. If you need an assist, you can use a screwdriver. Just be aware it is a spring, and left unattended, that spring will jump out. Okay, let's put the piece off to the side. I think that one clip may or may not be in. There you go. Just wanted to make sure. There's one side here that's just hanging out a little bit. I want to get that into the groove. Okay. All right, then on the bottom here, you're going to see there's a series of indents. So those little studs on the one side are going to indent with this. That's going to let you know that you've got the real unspooling or the tension on your knob is coming loose as you do this. Okay, line up the drag washers with the flat sides of the spool. Just bring it on so that you can see the reveal on the axle shaft. Grab the cap. Then I only have to put the case on. You can hear how that clicks. Those little studs. And of course you want to make sure you tighten it down, then it's holding. And then back it off. Make sure that it comes to a rest there. Okay, good. All right, one more piece then, just the side plate cover, and we'll give it one more spin. Just to make sure everything's working the way it should be. Again, use the right screwdriver width of blade for the slot. Tighten that down, and here we go. That's just a beautifully turning, nicely functioning reel. Of course, I'd test the bail, but you don't have a bail. So how do you work those? Well, what you do is the line will be coming in off the roller and spooling. When it's time to cast, you simply bring your finger out and remove it, disengage it, bring it over here where you're going to throw, and then you hook your line back and around the roller to use the manual pickup. Okay, that's it. That's the Penn 710Z, a complete rebuild with replacement parts and upgraded, or at least new bearings, gears, and drag washers. I hope you've enjoyed that. I want to thank our first responders, our police, fire, rescue, and everybody involved in public safety for all of their work day in and day out. Well, that's been a project. It's a beautiful reel, and Josu will have it ready to go, and hopefully catches a lot of fish with it in the future. I want to wish everybody great times on the water and great fishing. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Have a great day.